What you are witnessing right now is not a surgical operation. What you are watching unfold in real time across the Persian Gulf, across the skies of Tehran, across the waters of the Strait of Hormuz, is the consequence of decades of catastrophically arrogant American foreign policy finally colliding with a geopolitical reality that Washington's think tank class never had the intellectual honesty to confront. Let me be absolutely clear about what happened here, because the mainstream media will not tell you, and the generals parading across your television screens in their press suits will not tell you either. In the final days before these strikes, Iran's own foreign minister was publicly stating that a historic agreement with the United States had essentially been reached, a breakthrough, in the words of Oman's foreign minister. Iran had agreed to never stockpile enriched uranium, had agreed to full verification by the International Atomic Energy Agency, and had agreed to irreversibly downgrade its current enriched uranium stockpiles to their lowest possible level. Read that again. Iran had essentially capitulated on the nuclear question through diplomacy. And what did Washington do? Washington launched a war anyway. The United States and Israel launched strikes on Iran while talks between Washington and Tehran over Iran's nuclear program were still ongoing. This is not a foreign policy. This is a crime. This is the behavior of an empire so addicted to the use of force, so captured by the Israeli lobby and the defense industrial complex, that it will blow up a diplomatic solution in real time with the ink barely dry on the agreement to justify a war it had already decided to fight. The planning for this attack was coordinated with Israeli intelligence agencies. Washington deliberately engineered a dollar shortage in Iran to send the Iranian rial into freefall and cause protests in the streets. Think about what that means. The United States government deliberately and intentionally collapsed the Iranian economy to destabilize the country from within, while simultaneously running a diplomatic track telling the Iranians they were negotiating in good faith. The word for that is not strategy. The word for that is treachery. And now American boys are dying in Kuwait and Bahrain because of it. Let's talk about the tactical reality on the ground, because the triumphalist language coming out of the Pentagon and out of Tel Aviv is dangerously disconnected from what is actually happening. Israel's Air Force claims it dropped more than 1,200 munitions across 24 of Iran's 31 provinces in the joint attack with the United States. 1,200 munitions. And what has been the result? Those strikes killed Iran's supreme leader. Now, the Washington establishment is celebrating this as a decisive blow. They are wrong. Killing a supreme leader does not kill an ideology. It does not kill an institution. It does not kill a Revolutionary Guard Corps with hundreds of thousands of trained personnel, stockpiles of ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and one of the most sophisticated drone arsenals in the world. What it does do is remove all internal constraints on Iranian retaliation. Every moderate voice inside Tehran who might have counseled restraint is now politically dead. You have handed the hardliners, the IRGC commanders, the very people most willing to escalate, exactly the justification they need to do whatever they believe necessary. Iran has launched strikes across 9 countries in the region simultaneously: Bahrain, Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. The Iranian IRGC says it has launched attacks on 27 bases in the Middle East, where U.S. troops are deployed, as well as Israeli military facilities across Israel. 27 bases in 9 countries simultaneously. That is not the response of a broken regime. That is the response of a military organization that has spent decades preparing for exactly this scenario. Iran has spent 30 years studying American military doctrine, studying American force posture in the Gulf, studying the locations of every carrier strike group, every logistics hub, every ammunition depot, and every command node in the region. And now they are executing a distributed, simultaneous, multi-vector attack campaign that is exposing every single vulnerability in the American forward-basing model. Iranian missiles targeted the headquarters of the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet in Bahrain's Jubair area. The international airport was also struck with a drone. Think about the strategic audacity of that. Iran just told the entire world that the most powerful naval force in the Persian Gulf is not untouchable. That is a message being received very clearly right now in Beijing, in Moscow, in Pyongyang, and in every military planning office from Caracas to Islamabad. The Gulf states, the Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, these are countries that have built their entire modern existence on the premise that American military power would serve as an impenetrable shield. That premise is being shattered in real time. An Iranian drone struck a runway at a UK military base in Cyprus. We are now looking at strikes reaching into the Eastern Mediterranean. The geographic envelope of this conflict is expanding by the hour, and it is expanding because Iran has the capability, the will, and now the absolute justification to expand it. The second front is open. Hezbollah, which survived the 2024 conflict, which has been rearming, which has tens of thousands of fighters along the Lebanese border, is now formally in this war. The Israeli military is being asked to fight simultaneously in Lebanon and to defend its cities from Iranian ballistic missiles. Over 70,000 reservists have been mobilized in Israel. For a country of 9 million people, the economic and social cost of that mobilization alone is staggering. Every day, those reservists are not in their factories, their offices, their businesses. The Israeli economy is bleeding. Now let us talk about the American military situation, because this is where I have to be most direct. American service members are dead, and the President of the United States is going on television telling the American people this war will last 4 weeks. 4 weeks. I have been in and around the American military for my entire adult life, and I will tell you this. Military timelines announced by politicians in the first 72 hours of a conflict are almost universally wrong. What Trump is really describing is not a 4-week war. He is describing a 4-week air campaign. And what comes after the air campaign is the question that no one in Washington is willing to answer honestly. You cannot bomb your way to regime change in a country of 90 million people spread across 1.6 million square kilometers of mountainous, fortified terrain. The Iranians are not going to capitulate because you killed their supreme leader. Iran has declared 40 days of national mourning. 40 days. That is not a country on the verge of collapse. That is a country that has just been handed the most powerful unifying narrative in its modern history. The Islamic Republic has now become the nation that stood up to the United States and Israel simultaneously. Whatever internal dissent existed before these strikes, and there was significant dissent, it is now being subsumed by a wave of nationalist fury that Washington fundamentally did not account for. A sitting United States senator on the Foreign Relations Committee went on national television and said plainly that this administration has no plan for the chaos unfolding in the Middle East. No plan. And he is right. The Washington establishment is extraordinarily talented at starting wars. They are catastrophically incompetent at finishing them. Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria. The pattern is consistent, it is documented, and it is repeating itself right now in real time. Let me turn now to the economic dimensions of this catastrophe, because the financial destruction that is being set in motion will ultimately be more consequential than anything happening on the battlefield. The United States and Israel's war with Iran has spilled over into the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical energy choke points. Shipping through the strait, which carries 1/5 of the oil consumed globally as well as large quantities of liquefied natural gas, has ground to a near halt amid Iranian attacks on tankers in the region. 1/5 of global oil consumption, gone overnight, not reduced, not disrupted, essentially gone from the maritime market. A commander in Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps has declared the strait closed and stated that any vessel attempting to transit would be set ablaze. At least 5 tankers have been damaged, personnel killed, and approximately 150 ships stranded around the strait. 150 ships stranded, sitting in the Persian Gulf, unable to move in either direction. Tanker traffic has come to a halt. As one senior energy analyst put it, nothing seems to be going through at the moment. We have not seen anything like this in the history of the Strait of Hormuz.